They did all they could to prolong the life of film. Then they bet on China. That, okay, here's a new emerging market, a billion, more than a billion people. They would not go straight to digital, but unfortunately they did. So there wasn't very much that they could do then. I think everyone who's used Kodak film, who's used some of their products, who's grown up with Kodak, is probably sad right now, even if, our predictions have come true. In order to know what went wrong, we need to know what went right, for them. Because when we start looking at companies and see which were once successful, very successful as, Kodak was, we need to see what ticked for them, what worked for them that stopped working. And in Kodak's case, their success was built on the success of film. Okay? And film was an extremely lucrative product for them, gross margins of around 70%, if not more. And at one time, they controlled about 80 to 90% of the biggest film market in the world, which was the United States, and had about 40 to 50% market share of the global film market. So you can imagine, how lucrative this business was. And they were certainly, along with Fuji, they were the leading players in film. Digital cameras do not use film. Okay? So what would they do in such a situation? The first, usually, they followed a very standard route, which normally companies follow. Which is, the first thing is you ignore the new technology, okay? And just hope that it will go away all by itself. And in some cases, it does. The second is deride it. Tell the world this is never going to happen. Give them rationales, give them justifications for why it's not going to happen. And Kodak came out with the most creative justifications. They said, people are never going to, part with hard prints. In Kodak's lingo, this is called social currency. Okay? And people value it as much as normal currency, if not more. Any Kodak executive that I talked to in those days, and I'm talking about 10 years ago, not more, they would always give me the example of if someone's house catches fire, the first thing they go for are their photos. Okay? So people have sentimental value in their pictures. And so they're not going to part with it. And they would also give me the example of projectors. Remember when we were young, we used to watch these slide films on projector. And once they had positives or hard prints, we never went back to slides again. So they would say, people are never going to change that. And look at the quality, right? I mean, the quality was so much superior. And here you could see the individual pixels, and, it would take a long time, and it would take lots of money to get to that level digitally. Well, it always seems to happen sooner than, these companies claim or imagine. When we adopted digital cameras, it was for very different reasons. It wasn't because we found it easier to print. It wasn't because, their quality suddenly became as good as film. It was because we were able to share those pictures, over the internet. We were able to share those over mobile phones. And so it became a completely different proposition. Right? So Kodak missed all that. With digital, what happened was there was a huge demographic shift. Because we took digital cameras not as specialty photography equipment, but as electronic gadgets. And suddenly, the demographic shifted from mostly women taking pictures to mostly men taking pictures. Now, first of all, Kodak had no idea how to market to men. Okay? They had never dealt with men. Secondly, men were taking pictures with their digital cameras, but they were not printing them out. And of course, these cameras did not use film. So where was the revenue stream? How were they going to make money from digital? Secondly, as we all know, the margins on hardware are very thin. Certainly nowhere comparable to the margins on film. So they tried their best to prolong the life of film. So they gave the world photo CD, for example, you might remember that, and made a number of photo finishers buy equipment to burn CDs with pictures that were originally taken on film. So the idea was, go on taking pictures on your film-based cameras, but when you give them to the photo finisher, they will give them back to you as a set of hard prints, which we know you love. but they will also give it to you as a CD, which you can plug into your laptop or your PC and have a set of very high quality images digitally. They followed a 3-step process. The first one was ignore it, it'll go away. When it did not go away, then they started deriding it. They started giving you justifications for why film will never go away, because they needed this network, this universal network of service providers, who develop and print your film to basically be able to sell their product. And the third was they started giving you hybrid products like photo CD, or they gave you Advantix or advanced photo system cameras, smaller digitally coded film. So they did all they could to prolong the life of film. Then they bet on China. That, okay, here's a new emerging market, more than a billion people. They would not go straight to digital, but unfortunately they did. So there wasn't very much that they could do then. Perhaps what they could have done was invested in 10 different companies run by teenagers or 20-somethings. They could have owned Facebook today. They could have owned Flickr, or, give people money, shoestring budgets, tell them to experiment, start some business which has something to do with pictures. It is said that Kodak should have diversified into pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, like Fuji did, but Kodak did do that long before Fuji did, and it didn't work out for them. So the best really way forward was to reinvent themselves completely, but they were completely entrenched in this mindset, which was people take pictures to preserve memories. But guess what? People change their behavior, and they change it all the time. They do not take pictures anymore to preserve memories. They take pictures to share experiences.